So basically yesterday, I filmed this whole video, got the whole thing done, and then edited the project only to find out that I couldn't export it. The way that I was shooting it with the specific process that I was using just wasn't working. And so I can't export the video, I can't do anything with it, so I have to refilm it to actually be able to use it. And very frustrating, but here we are. I do want to say to wash your hands, make sure that you're following the CDC guidelines, especially in this time. There's a lot of new resources out there, new mandates in place, new information. So if you want to check that kind of stuff out, I'll have links in the description below for all of that kind of stuff. But in this video, I wanted to go through some of the small things that we can do as people beyond just, you know, the normal health stuff to actually be able to help out during this crisis. Now, before you start roasting me and saying that I don't know what I'm talking about, all of my stuff comes from reputable sources. The stuff that I'm talking on today actually comes from a LINUS Tech Tips video, talking through some of the specific things you can do with your tech to be able to help out during this crisis. And so I'll have all of the sources listed down below. I want this video to kind of be a culmination of all of those things, me sharing it to a new audience versus stepping over what other people are saying or spreading misinformation. So do keep that in mind. So with that out of the way, how can you as a person help out during this pandemic or crisis with what you have on hand? So like I said already, the main place that I'm getting all of my information is from this specific LINUS Tech Tip video, as well as the website that they mentioned, because I've gone on there a couple of times and looked through all of the resources and stuff on there. So that's where I'm getting my information. Please go ahead and check that video out if you want to, if you have the time. It's really, really worth the watch. But basically, what they're talking about in this video is this project called Folding at Home. Basically, what Folding at Home is a software that you can download on your computer that uses your CPU and GPU to run protein simulations on specific types of viruses or bacteria or, you know, any number of things. And this helps people understand more information about what's going on with these viruses, understand how they work and how they interact with things. And so basically, it's just a way to understand more and get more information on a living organism. If you want a more in-depth explanation of folding, you can definitely check that out on their website. I've linked to that below. But this process is super cool, and it's, you know, an interesting way of countering a virus, you know, by trying to find out more information about it, which is really, really cool. But what's unique about Folding at Home is they blockchain computers together. So basically, you can download the software onto your personal computer and run the simulations and then upload the findings of those simulations to their central server, and then they can use that data and interpret it and work with it. Instead of having to have a central computer that runs these simulations, which wouldn't be nearly as fast, they're able to kind of spread the workload out amongst multiple different computers, send them all different assignments, and have, you know, a massive amount of actual horsepower behind whatever problem they're trying to solve. And this concept was really, really cool, but not a lot of people are actually making use of it up until recently in the last couple of weeks. Before this whole COVID-19 crisis and everything, there are about 40,000 people making use of the Folding at Home software on their computers. That massively changed within the last couple of weeks. There's almost now 400,000 people using this software on their computer that have it running in the background, which is amazing. To put that into perspective, these 400,000 people and the processing power of their machines is actually more than the largest supercomputer that exists on the planet right now. So 400,000 people have blockchain together to make a computer or a processing system that's stronger and more powerful than the largest supercomputer that we've created. So the benefit of this system is incredibly evident. We're able to spread the load of understanding proteins and folding them across multiple different machines and be able to interpret the data a lot faster and work with it a lot faster, whereas even a supercomputer wouldn't be able to get through all of this data at the same speed. Now, they have run into some issues with this, especially with the recent influx of so many people wanting to use this software. They weren't ready for that. They hadn't put the server infrastructure in place. So they were actually running into the problem to where they couldn't actually take in the data. They would send the assignments out, they would be processed, but they couldn't take them back in because the server was bottlenecked. I think that they have like a gigabit Ethernet connection at their office, which is just not nearly enough for as many people as they have on their network trying to send them information. So LINUS Tech Tips actually goes through this and talks about this, and he and the ISP that he uses at their warehouse are working together to create not only another server at the LINUS Tech Tips office, but another server at the ISP's location that can intake data. So that's really, really cool. LINUS also has a larger internet connection that he can devote to this. So basically they'll be able to process more data, intake more data, and be able to send out more assignments, which is, you know, again, amazing and really, really useful for understanding more about viruses out there. And they're not just dealing with COVID-19. Some of the other things that they're working with is like cancer and some other bacterias. The difference that these guys are making is much, much larger than just what's going on right now, but does relate to what's going on right now. And back to the servers that they're setting up, it looks like they're probably gonna have them up in the next couple of weeks. Linus hasn't put out another video about it, but basically in the video that they put out, they were already working on setting systems up and they already had the computers in place to do so. So that's the update on that. So what's great about this is the more that we understand about viruses and about bacteria and all of this stuff, the faster we're able to create vaccines or drugs that help out with this kind of stuff and are able to kind of combat these kinds of different diseases. And especially because of the system that they've put in place, this information is now something that they can work through a lot faster than ever before. And anybody that wants to contribute doesn't actually have to put any effort in, because it's literally just downloading a software from a website, putting it on your computer and letting it run. You know, for me, I have my laptop that I use here when I'm filming at home, and I'm not at the office right now using my larger desktop, so it's just sitting there and nothing's happening with it. So obviously, you know, it's better to actually have it doing something, contributing to, you know, helping the world versus just leaving it alone and not doing anything on it. And so that's what I think is so special about this. I can just leave it, let it run, and be at home working on a different computer and getting other kinds of work done. And at least for me, you know, if I'm honest with myself, it feels like sometimes I don't have any way of helping out in world crises. There's so much going on out there that just seems to be out of my control, especially with like things like climate change. You know, climate change is something that's going to take a national effort or a global effort to fix. It's not something that's just going to happen overnight either. A lot of people have to band together and all make a massive change for things to actually improve. But there's a statistic out there that says that about 100 companies are contributing 70% of the world's emissions and pollution, which means that even if I, do everything that people tell me to do for helping with climate change, not using as much electricity or taking less than 10-minute showers, trying to recycle everything, I'm not actually going to be able to make a massive dent in the situation that's at hand. And, even if a bunch of people band together, 100 million people band together and start doing the exact same kinds of things, cutting back on their waste, cutting back on the emissions, getting electric cars, that will definitely massively impact the situation. But if these larger companies keep contributing to the problem, then there's nothing that we can actually do about that. And that's what I'm talking about. It feels like I'm completely helpless in actually, contributing to change in that specific sense. But the difference with COVID-19 is pretty stark in the sense that it's something that's passed through transmission. So as a person, on my own, I can go out and help not spread this virus. I can wash my hands more. I can wear a face mask. I can wear gloves. I can not touch public surfaces. I can, socially distance myself from people, make sure that I'm staying 6 feet away at all times and stuff like that. There's stuff that I can do to help out that will make a massive difference, especially when it comes to the transmission of the virus to my family or to my friends or to anybody that I know. And a lot of us still have to go and work because, we need to make money and pay for rent. And so even then, if we're wearing masks, if we're wearing gloves, if we're being careful about how we touch things, if we wash our hands a lot, we can still do a lot in impacting the spread of this virus and slowing it down. And hopefully that spread is slow enough to where we're able to go get some vaccines made or find some drugs that work against it that can start to be distributed and help out in this situation. For me, I pretty much still have to contact a lot of the employees on a day-to-day basis, but what I've been doing is wearing face masks to work. I've been wearing latex gloves in and out of work so that every public surface I touch, like the elevator buttons and the doors and all of that, are all with the gloves instead of with my hands. I wash my hands when I get to work. I keep track of what surfaces I've touched and also what surfaces other people at work have touched. I try to stay as far away as possible, 6 feet if possible, but when, we're working together, I just make sure that I'm not coughing or sneezing or rubbing my nose anywhere near anybody else, that I wash my hands every single time I do. So small stuff like that. I'm working to not spread the virus even when I have to actually go work. And those are great things. We can all do that, and changing things like that in our day-to-day habits are what's going to be able to help us, especially with this virus, but with all viruses ahead of this one. But beyond that, outside of just doing the physical things that we can do, better health practices, stuff like that, we can also contribute our gaming rigs, our computers that we have, our work computers, whatever the case may be, to helping solve this problem. Folding at Home has already shown that, a small Stanford startup can actually make a massive difference in understanding proteins and working with simulations and gathering information about the organisms that are out there in the world, wreaking havoc. Just with the 400,000 people that they've got right now, they've already created a system, a blockchain that is more powerful than the largest supercomputer out there, which shows that a small amount of people can really make a massive difference. And it's not just companies that are doing this, it's people that have gaming rigs and desktops that are just letting this run, that are actually the ones making this happen. Imagine if 1 million people, 2 million people, or even 10 million people got on and started using Folding at Home on their computers. We would have a computer or a blockchain processing power larger than anything that we've ever built so far in humanity's history, literally an order of magnitude stronger than the fastest, best computer that exists today. So especially when it comes to COVID-19, there's something we can do right now to help out with this situation that can actually contribute a lasting difference to what's going on right now. So if you're interested in setting your computer up to help, how do you get started? How do you do that? Well, it's pretty simple, straightforward. I've mentioned it multiple times already. All you have to do is go to the foldingathome.com, or I think it's a .org website. It's definitely .org. Foldingathome.org website. If you just type Folding at Home into Google, it'll be the first result that pops up. And then just click the Get Started button or jump in. I don't remember what the actual name of the button is, but you click on that and download the software. It takes a little bit of time to install, but basically once it installs, it'll pull up a web page and you get to choose what settings you want to set up. You can set it up to use just a little bit of your CPU power, a medium amount or as much as possible. You can set it up to run all the time or just on idle, which means when you're away from your computer. And there's a couple other fine-tuning, deals that you can do. You can also set your computer up to be under somebody's team. So if you go and watch the Linus Tech Tips video and want to be part of their computing team, even though all of the same data goes back to the same people, you can kind of rack up points for the team that you sign up with, which I think is really cool. Kind of adding competitiveness to this whole kind of thing. And the web manager is pretty much all you'll need to ever use, but you can pull up a manager that's actually on your computer. If you right click on the little icon that'll be in the taskbar, you can pull up some of the basic settings as well as an advanced viewer, and you can also pull up this little simulation. It's not an active simulation of what's actually going on with your computer, but it's an interesting little graphic that kind of shows what protein folding looks like, which I think is kind of cool. So it's super easy, super straightforward. It's something that you can literally set up today, and it's not going to change anything that you're already doing. You can just set it up to run while you're gone, and you're completely good to go, and you're contributing to help understand COVID-19 and all of the other things that are going on right now in the world. So to kind of conclude here, I know that a lot of the people that I used to spend a lot of time with, especially, when I live streamed on this channel and, on Twitch, were gamers and they'd done a lot of gaming themselves. And if you come from that background, then most likely you have a pretty strong, powerful PC that's sitting at home that you're not using all of the time. You may have to go to school, or you may be spending time away from it, doing homework, or maybe hanging out with friends. And setting up your PC to be able to run and use Folding at Home is something you can do to contribute to the efforts to help out in the world right now without actually impacting any of your current habits like gaming and using it for browsing the internet and stuff like that. I totally recommend setting this up if you have the time or if that's something that you're interested in doing, because really we can flatten the curve. We can do a lot of really helpful things such as social distancing and sheltering at home, but beyond that there's more that we can do that will additionally help during this time, which could end up being really useful for doctors and for scientists out there studying this kind of stuff. And who knows, maybe this kind of project will be exactly what's needed to create the life-saving drug or vaccine that people are working on right now. Maybe it'll show us the information that we need to know to keep ourselves safe in the future from, other strains of this virus. On a final note, a lot of people have been talking about how this may become the new normal. This is the first time a virus has really spread worldwide like this, and it's because, we're more connected than we've ever been before through travel, through all kinds of stuff. And so there is a genuine fear that something like this could happen again, that a virus could start somewhere and travel across the world in a matter of months and be something that shuts down economies again and really causes problems like this again, which is a genuinely scary thing. But there's a chance that, if this becomes the new normal, not the economy, but the way that we interact on a day-to-day basis, social distancing, working from home as much as possible, wearing latex gloves and masks and washing our hands, sanitizing as often as possible, that we might be able to slow stuff like this in the future, and that it might be useful for, countries to continue these practices or promoting these kinds of practices. It might be good for all of us to, in the end, kind of reevaluate how we interact with the world, because this may be what we need to do to help out and do our part in society and not causing our economy to shut down next year or the year after that or whenever, another disease starts to spread. Japan and many other countries are doing a great job in day-to-day, sanitary practices and wearing dust masks and stuff like that. And who knows, maybe through that process we'll start doing that in the US, we'll start doing that all over the world, and that'll just become the new normal. There are issues out there that exist that are beyond COVID-19, that are beyond the viruses that we know today, that will show up, a year from now, 2 years from now, 100 years from now. And projects like Folding at Home help with those kinds of issues. They're not just working on COVID-19, they're working on cancer and so many other things. So even after COVID-19 is cured, and maybe it happens really soon, maybe a month from now, everything goes back to normal and everybody's okay. projects like folding at home still have a massive benefit, because 100 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, there's going to be more viruses that spread, even if they're not as worldwide. And projects like this help us understand more about what's going on. And who knows, maybe a larger adoption of this kind of software will help us be able to, up our game in the medicine world and be able to put out drugs and vaccines so much faster than we've ever been able to do it before, because there's now so much information about how these specific organisms operate. With that being said, that's all for this video. If you guys were interested in checking out the Linus Tech Tips video, I've got it linked below, like I said already. Definitely give it a watch if you like. I've also got other resources for understanding COVID-19, the information that's out there right now, linked below. There's a recent interview with Philip DeFranco and Dr. I think it's FAUCI that was just posted today, and so I'll have that link down there as well. It's super, super informative. It's really, really helpful, and it's something that helped catch me up on what's going on right now too, so that was awesome. If you have any thoughts or comments, as always, feel free to share those below, and of course, subscribe if this is content that you're interested in. But besides that, guys, that's it for me. I will see you guys in the next video. Make sure to stay safe and wash your hands.